Let's cut through the noise. You're over 30, still single. And somewhere deep down, beneath all the rationalizations and excuses, you're wondering why your friends are married. Some have kids. Your social media feed is full of engagement announcements and family photos. And you're still here, swiping, dating, hoping, wondering what's wrong with you. Here's the thing nobody wants to tell you. There's probably a very specific reason you're single. Not a mystery, not bad luck, not that you haven't met the right person yet. A pattern, a behavior, something you keep doing that pushes people away or attracts the wrong ones. And until you face it, really face it, nothing changes. Today, I'm going to tell you the brutally honest truth about why you're still single. No sugarcoating, no gentle reassurance, just reality. Because if you're serious about changing this, you need to hear what nobody else will say. Ready? Let's go. First truth, you're not actually available. I know what you're thinking, but I want a relationship. I'm trying to date. How am I not available emotionally? You're not emotionally available. Maybe you're still hung up on your ex, not actively pining, but part of you is still there, still comparing everyone new to them, still holding on to hope they'll come back. Or maybe you're not over being hurt. You say you're ready, but the moment someone gets close, you panic, pull away, find reasons they're not right. Because vulnerability terrifies you. Being hurt again terrifies you, so you date people you're not that into, or you sabotage things with people you are into. Either way, you stay safe and alone. Here's how you know if this is you. Do you find yourself constantly comparing new people to your ex? Do you still have photos of them saved? Do you still check their social media? Do you feel anxious when someone wants to get serious? Do you find flaws in everyone who actually likes you? That's not being picky. That's being unavailable. I watched my friend do this for 5 years. She claimed she wanted a relationship, she dated constantly, but every time someone liked her, actually liked her, she'd find a reason they weren't good enough, too boring, too available, too interested. Meanwhile, she'd chase people who were unavailable themselves, because that felt familiar, safe, no risk of actual intimacy. She finally went to therapy, realized she'd been terrified of being vulnerable ever since her ex cheated. Every new person was a potential threat, so she kept them at a distance. Once she saw the pattern, she could change it. But it took years of blaming the dating pool when the real issue was her own fear. If you're over 30 and still single, ask yourself honestly, are you actually available? Or are you protecting yourself by staying surface level, by choosing people you don't really want, by finding reasons to leave before it gets real? Because if you're not emotionally available, it doesn't matter how many people you meet, you'll stay single. Not because nobody wants you, but because you won't let anyone in. Second reason, you have unrealistic standards. And before you get defensive, hear me out. I'm not saying lower your standards. I'm saying examine them. Because many people confuse standards with fantasy. They have a list. Must be this height, this successful, this attractive, this funny, this adventurous. Must love travel, fitness, fine dining. Must have no baggage, no exes who matter, no complicated past. Must be emotionally intelligent, but also masculine. Vulnerable, but also strong. Ambitious, but also present. The list goes on. And it's not a list of what you need. It's a list of perfection. A fantasy person who doesn't exist. Meanwhile, you're overlooking real people, imperfect people, people who might actually be great partners, but don't check every box on your imaginary list. Here's the hard truth. Everyone over 30 has baggage. Everyone has an ex. Everyone has been hurt. Everyone has flaws. If you're waiting for someone without complications, without a past, without rough edges, you're waiting for someone who doesn't exist. And you're probably also someone with complications, a past, and rough edges. But somehow you've convinced yourself that you deserve perfection while offering imperfection. I'm not saying date people you're not attracted to. I'm not saying ignore red flags. But I am saying check your list. Is it based on what actually makes relationships work? Or is it based on ego, insecurity, and fantasy? Does height really matter if someone treats you well? Does income really matter if they're financially responsible? Does perfection really matter if they show up consistently? Think about the happiest couples you know. I guarantee most of them don't check all each other's boxes, but they work because they value the right things: kindness, consistency, communication, growth, quote, respect. If your list doesn't prioritize these things, your list, quote, is wrong. And that's why you're single. You're chasing an image instead of building a connection. You're optimizing for impressive instead of compatible. I know someone who turned down multiple good people because they didn't meet specific criteria. Not tall enough, not exciting enough, not ambitious enough. Then she met someone who checked all her boxes. And he was emotionally unavailable, selfish, and ultimately made her miserable. Because boxes don't equal compatibility, and fantasy doesn't equal real, quote, love. If you're still single at 30 plus with a long list of requirements, it's time to get honest. Are these standards serving you, or are they protecting you from actually having to be in a relationship? Because sometimes unrealistic standards are just another form of unavailability. Another way to stay alone while blaming the world for not providing perfection. Third reason, and this one's uncomfortable. You're boring. Not inherently, not as a person, but as a romantic prospect. You've let your life become routine. Work, home, Netflix, repeat. Maybe gym, maybe occasional drinks with the same friends, but nothing interesting, nothing new, nothing that makes you grow or change or experience life. And then you wonder why nobody's excited about you. Because excitement requires growth, requires novelty, requires someone who's actively living, not just existing. Think about it. When someone asks what you've been up to, what do you say? Oh, just working. Same old, not much. That's not attractive. That's not compelling. That doesn't make someone want to know more about you. You don't need to be skydiving every weekend. You don't need to be an adventurer or entrepreneur, but you need something. A hobby you're passionate about, a skill you're developing, a goal you're pursuing, something that makes you interesting to yourself, which then makes you interesting to others. I've seen this pattern repeatedly. People wondering why they can't find someone while they've spent the last 5 years doing nothing but working and watching TV. They're not developing, not growing, not experiencing, not becoming. They're stagnating. And stagnation isn't attractive. It's not that you need to be impressive. It's that you need to be engaged with your own life. When you're pursuing something, learning something, building something, that energy is attractive. That curiosity is compelling. That growth is magnetic. But when you've got nothing going on except waiting for someone to complete you, that's the opposite of attractive. That's pressure. It says, I have no life, so you need to be my life. And nobody wants that responsibility. Start living an interesting life, not to attract someone, but for yourself. Take that class, start that project, pursue that interest, travel somewhere, learn something, do anything that makes you more than just someone killing time until love arrives. Because here's the irony. The moment you become engaged with your own life, the moment you stop waiting and start living, that's when people notice. That's when you become attractive. Not because you're trying harder, but because you're actually someone worth knowing. Fourth reason, you're carrying unresolved trauma into every interaction. Something happened, a bad breakup, a betrayal, a pattern of being hurt, and you haven't processed it, haven't healed it. You've just buried it, told yourself you're over it, convinced yourself it doesn't affect you. But it does every single day. Every new person you meet carries the weight of your unhealed wounds. You're suspicious when you should be open, defensive when you should be vulnerable, closed when you should be available. You're not meeting them as they are. You're meeting them as a potential threat based on what happened before. And they feel that. They feel your walls, your guardedness, your inability to trust. And eventually, they leave not because they don't like you, but because they can't reach you, because there's no space for them inside your fortress of self-protection. This is different from being unavailable emotionally. This is about actively bringing past pain into present relationships, making new people pay for old crimes they didn't commit. I watched someone ruin relationship after relationship this way. She'd been cheated on badly, and she never properly processed it. So, she brought that pain into every new relationship, checked phones, asked invasive questions, assumed the worst, created problems where none existed. The relationships would start well, but her unresolved trauma would slowly poison everything. She'd test, push, accuse, until the person left, confirming her belief that everyone leaves, everyone cheats. The cycle continued until she finally got therapy, until she faced the trauma instead of projecting it onto innocent people. If you're over 30 and still single, consider this. Are you meeting new people fresh? Or are you making them prove they're different from your ex? Making them earn trust they haven't done anything to lose? Creating tests they don't know they're taking. That's not protecting yourself. That's guaranteeing you'll stay alone. Because nobody can love someone who won't let them in. Nobody can prove themselves to someone who's already decided they're guilty. You need to heal your trauma. Actually heal it, not just cover it. Not just pretend it doesn't affect you. Process it with therapy, with time, with intention, until you can meet someone new without making them pay for someone else's sins. Until you can be vulnerable without assuming you'll be hurt. Until you can trust again without needing constant proof. That's when you'll actually be ready for a relationship. That's when you'll stop pushing away good people because you're still fighting ghosts from your past. Fifth truth. You're not actually relationship material yet. And this is the hardest one to hear, but someone needs to say it. Maybe you're not ready for a relationship because you haven't become someone who can successfully be in one. You haven't developed the skills, the emotional maturity, the self-awareness. You say you want partnership, but can you actually partner? Can you compromise without resentment? Can you communicate without attacking? Can you handle conflict without running or exploding? Can you take responsibility for your part in problems? Can you maintain yourself while being close to someone? Can you give without keeping score? Can you receive without feeling indebted? These aren't natural abilities. They're developed skills, and many people over 30 never developed them. They've dated, but they've never actually learned how to be a good partner. So they repeat the same patterns, the same conflicts, the same reasons relationships fail. And they blame the other person, the timing, the circumstances, never examining their own contribution. I know someone who's been single since his late 20s. He's now 40, and he genuinely doesn't understand why. He dates, women like him initially, then they leave every time. He thinks he's unlucky, but the pattern is clear to everyone else. He's selfish. Not intentionally, not maliciously, but he's never learned to consider someone else's needs alongside his own. He makes unilateral decisions, cancels plans last minute, prioritizes himself always, and he's shocked when women get tired of it. He's not relationship material. Not because he's a bad person, but because he's never developed the skills to be a good partner. And until he does, he'll stay single. Or he'll end up in relationships that fail for the same reasons. If you're over 30 and still single, get honest with yourself. Are you actually good at relationships? Or do you just want to be in one? Because wanting something doesn't mean you're ready for it. Being ready means developing the emotional intelligence, communication skills, and selflessness that relationships require. It means working on yourself, not to be perfect, but to be functional. To be someone who can handle the demands of partnership without falling apart or making everything harder. That might mean therapy, might mean reading books on relationships, might mean having honest conversations with exes about what went wrong. Whatever it takes to develop the skills you're lacking, because relationships don't fail because of bad luck. They fail because one or both people aren't capable of doing what relationships require. If all your relationships fail the same way, that's not coincidence. That's you. And you can change you. But first, you have to admit there's something to change. Sixth reason, you're too passive. You're waiting. Waiting for someone to find you. Waiting for the perfect moment. Waiting for love to just happen. You've convinced yourself that when it's right, it'll be easy. That the right person will appear and everything will fall into place. So you're not actively pursuing anything, you're just hoping. This is especially common in people who've been hurt. They're tired of trying, tired of being disappointed, so they've stopped putting in effort, stopped taking initiative, stopped being vulnerable or brave. They swipe occasionally, they say yes to setups reluctantly, but they're not actually in the arena. They're watching from the sidelines, waiting to be chosen. Here's reality. Love doesn't just happen. Relationships don't manifest. You have to participate actively, intentionally. You have to put yourself in situations where you could meet someone. You have to be willing to be rejected, to be vulnerable, to take risks. If you're not doing that, if you're just passively hoping someone will stumble into your life and immediately recognize you're perfect for them, you're going to be single forever. I've seen people waste years this way, convinced that effort means it's not meant to be, that if they have to try, it's not real love. That's not how it works. Even the best relationships require effort, especially in the beginning. Effort to meet people, effort to build connection, effort to overcome fear and awkwardness and uncertainty. If you're over 30 and single, ask yourself, are you actually trying? Or are you waiting? Are you putting yourself out there consistently or occasionally half-heartedly? Are you being brave or are you playing it safe? Because passive people stay single not because nobody wants them, but because nobody can find them. They're hiding behind walls of self-protection, hoping someone will break through. But that's not how it works. You have to come out, have to risk, have to try, even when it's scary, even when you've been hurt. That's the only way. Seventh and final reason. You're lying to yourself about what you actually want. You say you want a relationship, but do you really? Or do you want the idea of a relationship, the validation of being chosen, the status of being partnered, the comfort of not being alone, but the actual reality of a relationship, the compromise, the sacrifice, the vulnerability, the work? Maybe you don't actually want that. Maybe you like your freedom more than you admit, your independence, your ability to do exactly what you want when you want, your space, your routine, your lack of obligation. And there's nothing wrong with that. But be honest about it, because if you don't actually want a relationship, stop torturing yourself trying to force one. Stop blaming yourself for being single. You're single because part of you wants to be. I know people like this. They claim they're desperate for partnership, but every time they get close to having one, they sabotage it. Find a reason to leave. Create problems because they don't actually want what they say they want. They want to want it. They want to stop being judged for being single, but they don't want the reality. And that's okay, but stop pretending. Stop going through the motions. Either actually pursue what you claim to want, or admit you're content being single and stop making it a problem. If you're over 30 and still single, sit with this question. Do you actually want a relationship? Not theoretically, not someday, right now. Are you willing to compromise, to consider someone else, to sacrifice some independence, to be vulnerable, to do the work? If the answer is yes, truly yes, then you know what to do. Fix what's keeping you single. Work on your availability. Examine your standards. Make your life interesting. Heal your trauma. Develop relationship skills. Be active. But if the answer is no, or maybe, or someday, then stop torturing yourself. Being single isn't a failure. It's only a problem if you're pretending you want something you don't. So, there it is. 7 brutally honest reasons you're still single at 30 plus. You're not emotionally available. Your standards are unrealistic. Your life is boring. You're carrying unresolved trauma. You're not relationship material yet. You're too passive. You're lying to yourself about what you want. And here's the thing. Reading this changes nothing. Being aware of the problem doesn't fix the problem. You actually have to do something. You have to face what you've been avoiding, work on what you've been ignoring, change what you've been repeating. That's uncomfortable. It requires honesty that hurts, effort when you're tired, vulnerability when you're scared. Most people won't do it. They'll read this, recognize themselves, and still change nothing. Because changing is hard. Staying the same is easier. Even if staying the same means staying single. But if you're serious about this, if you actually want to change your situation, you know what to do now. Get therapy if you need it. Examine your patterns, challenge your stories, develop new skills, take real risks. Be honest about what you want, and then pursue it, actively, consistently, bravely. You're over 30, which means you have enough life experience to know what doesn't work. Use that knowledge. Stop repeating the same patterns and expecting different results. That's the definition of insanity. If you want a relationship, become someone who can have one, not someone who just wants one. There's a difference, and that difference is why you're still single. Fix it.